Hi guys, today's video is going to be all about money, how to manifest wealth, being rich, manifesting money in general. And yes, before any comments here say, well then why aren't you a billionaire? I'm not claiming to be a multi-millionaire, billionaire, extremely rich. I'm not claiming that, I've done it, so look at what I've done. This is just general, logical, common sense advice when it comes to law of assumption and manifestation. There are a lot of obvious do's and don'ts. So obviously I have had my own experiences with financial success. I have manifested certain things relating to money that I needed to happen. Just throughout, my manifesting journey, obviously I have manifested some success with this and had successful experiences. So I am coming to you from some trial and error, some personal experience, and overall just general good advice and things to remember when you want to manifest more money and genuinely being rich. There is a good formula to follow. So I'm going to go over that, and of course it's things I've picked up from other coaches and manifestation teachings and all that stuff. So it's a combination of that along with my own personal experience. So yeah, do thumbs up, subscribe, turn on the notification bell if you're interested, if this is a topic you'd like me to talk about more in the future. I can also do a meditation on this if you guys are interested. I also offer one-on-one coaching if you want some personal help, you're struggling with your manifestation. I offer email or Instagram DM coaching because I get a lot of questions about this. But please do take a look at my Instagram below, LOA Coaching. It's linked below, and that has all the information you need about my coaching. And yeah, let's just get started. So first point that I think is very important, and I say this a lot when I recommend when you're starting with a new manifestation, trying to manifest something from scratch, work your way up from the bottom of the beginning of the experience, if that makes sense. So if you are, for example, starting with some money issues, some, concerns and things you want to change, you just want to completely change around your financial situation, then the first thing to do is to identify those limiting beliefs, the negative thoughts, the negative assumptions. And this can be very deep rooted in your childhood. So for example, if you were raised or through news, social conditioning, at school, at work, wherever it is you've picked up beliefs, it can be along the lines of money doesn't grow on trees, you have to work really hard to be wealthy, only 1% of the population can ever achieve wealth, you have to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth. All these different beliefs, like money is so hard to earn, it's difficult to make it in this world, just all this garbage that we've been fed our whole lives. And of course we've taken it on. If our parents have said it, if we've seen our parents struggle, sorry, I just got a text message. If we've seen our family struggle, then we are conditioned and ingrained with those same assumptions and beliefs. It's just natural and extremely subtle. So it's nobody's fault, if you have negative assumptions and beliefs. Unfortunately, it is very normal and natural to experience that and develop those over years, but you want to identify them. So it doesn't have to be specific down to a phrase. I'm not saying you have to identify, a phrase or a saying that you are kind of taught throughout your childhood. It can be more a concept. It can be that money is difficult to earn, or you can only get a really high paying job if you get a university degree and you didn't go to uni. These are things that perhaps your parents intentionally scared you about and were trying to help you and protect you and give you the right advice. But ultimately, when it comes to, family values, when it comes to money, in society generally, even in middle class and upper class families, these ideas can all be passed down. And I think even wealthy people do have a lot of ingrained beliefs about fear. Perhaps not people who have just created their own individual wealth and who have worked and created their own wealth, but more so, if it's passed down generation to generation, those ideas can be passed down too, and it's you have to do XYZ to earn XYZ, So you want to identify what those are and flip them into the opposite. It's kind of what I described, I think, in my How to Recreate Your SP video. So essentially you want to identify all the negative ideas and beliefs that you have followed throughout your life. And yeah, like I said, it's usually that money is difficult to earn, you have to pay huge amounts in bills, you have to have savings, otherwise you're not going to be financially secure. These are all things that absolutely do not have to apply to you. You can create your own financial rules. So essentially you want to identify them, flip them into the opposite, and then remove them by either affirming the opposite or just creating affirmations based on that. So one of my personal favorite affirmations is I always receive, win and earn millions of pounds. Obviously change the last word to your own currency, you know, dollars, whatever the currency is in your country, obviously adapt it to that, and also change up the wording if it feels like you wouldn't really speak like that naturally, but to me it makes a lot of sense, and it covers, it is kind of, I wouldn't necessarily go out in public and be like, hi there, just to let you know I receive, win and earn millions of pounds. Like, I wouldn't do that, but it would be kind of natural wording to me, so I kind of created that one for myself and it works for me. And yeah, so I recommend going along with something like that. That's just one personal example that I personally use a lot. So when you are first starting out, if you're coming from very negative beliefs, worries, assumptions, negative circumstances, this is the time where you really want to push yourself mentally with this new reality, this new financial success. You want to be on a strict mental diet, which always applies, but especially during the beginning when you're going to be reminded, you might be physically, visually reminded of, you know, a bill sitting on your table, you know, your email saying bill is due, you have to pay this, costs are rising, especially in the UK, the cost of living crisis. These are things you have to ignore and do a mental diet about. If it comes up in your mind as a concern, you need to shut it down. You need to say either, you know, I'm always financially secure, I'm rich. It can be as simple as that, 3 words, I am rich. It doesn't have to be any crazy saying, it doesn't have to be a long descriptive statement. It can be something simple like, I'm not worried, you know, I'm rich. It can be anything. So next point where you want to be really aware of what thoughts are coming out in your mind and doing a mental diet and also consistently affirming is any time that you have bills due, any interaction you have with, you know, bills you have to pay, payments you have to make, anything to do with that. It might seem like you're okay and, oh, I affirmed for an hour yesterday, like I'll just pay my bills. You want to be super aware of what's coming up in your mind. That will also be another good way to identify your limiting beliefs and, you know, what concerns are coming up in your mind. Do you get a memory of your parents struggling to pay bills? Do you remember something your mum or dad said, your teacher at school said, that has always stuck with you? Well, if it's negative, you need to flip it with a mental diet. Keep affirming for money, whatever affirmations you've chosen. And, you know, if you're paying the rent, if bills are coming up, that is the time to consistently and even more affirm. Loop your affirmation or multiple affirmations more and more during those times to calm your mind down, to create more positive associations with those things, to teach yourself, actually, I always have more than enough money to pay for this. I'm not concerned, I'm rich. You know, keep doing that, keep training your subconscious mind. You can even create affirmations that I've seen other people talk about as well, about your bills being paid. You don't have to worry about circumstances. I have tons of videos talking about this. Ignore the reality. I don't care if you don't have any rich friends or rich family members. I don't care. Your bills will be paid for one way or another if that's what you want to affirm. It could be that in the UK we have local councils. I presume this is the case in other countries, but essentially it could be a case that, you know, the council lowers your bills. The government gives you a certain loan. The government pays off certain bills, which is something the UK government recently introduced. It could come about in anything. It could be a stranger giving you money. It could be your friend paying it, your family members paying it. There are a million possibilities, so please don't worry about that or wonder, well, this isn't realistic, because it doesn't matter at all. I don't bloody care if a magic elephant comes down from the sky and pays off your bills for you. There are a million possibilities. It doesn't matter what's realistic or not. Obviously the elephant one, not gonna happen, I'm sorry guys. But that was just an example that honestly, anything is possible, so please don't limit yourself. So you could affirm, my bills are paid for every month. You could say by someone else, by X person, by my partner, if that's what you want. I mean, who am I to judge? You can get anybody you want specifically to pay your bills for you. You can get your landlord to decrease your rent if you are really struggling and that's what you need. You can be like, you know what, next month's rent, the landlord has pushed it back to X date, or they've lowered my rent. You know, it will come about naturally and perfectly. The landlord will have to want to do that, you know what I mean? So the circumstances will unfold, but you could even affirm that you don't have to pay any bills every month. This is one thing you want to be careful that you're not going to create a situation where you're homeless or kicked out of your home. So use positive wording that implies your desired outcome. Make sure the way you've worded it works out for you. So another point that ties in with this and a mental diet is literally changing your thought process. That's why I said, and I always say this, be very aware of what thoughts are coming up throughout the day, because let's say you get a really high bill, your electricity bill is super high, or you go out to a restaurant with a friend. I've had experiences like this where, you know, you go out to a restaurant, the bill is super high. I've actually trained myself now to just not panic or worry at all. I'm like, it doesn't matter, like I have so much money. That's why I tell myself, you know, I have so much money, I can pay this 5 times over, like this doesn't bother me at all. And I've almost become desensitized. Like if I go out to a fancy restaurant, I don't care what the bill is. Like I always think to myself, obviously it's not going to be £2,000. It's not going to be a crazy high amount, but you know, even if it's a little higher than normal, I don't panic at all. I've just trained myself to get into that state of mind. So that's what you want to start doing. If you get a really high bill, or you know, one-off, you've gone to a restaurant, you've gone shopping and it costs a little more than you expected, do not start panicking and letting those doubts and thoughts come in. Tell yourself, doesn't matter, I can afford it, I am rich. Obviously you have to be financially responsible. So please, if you are in overdraft or you genuinely are struggling financially, like in the 3D reality, you would genuinely have an overdraft, loans that need to be paid, bills that are due and you haven't paid yet, be responsible. I'm not saying go out and spend all your money just because you're doing affirmations. I've seen this happen in the past and can't believe people do this. Please use your intelligence when you're making these decisions. Do not put yourself in financial jeopardy. You know, don't put yourself in a bad situation. If you have enough money to go shopping, to go to a restaurant, you're going out with friends and you have the money for it, that's totally fine. Just please be financially responsible for your current situation. Yes, you can affirm your way out of any situation, but why put yourself in financial issues, you know? You don't want to go through that. So please just be responsible. But like I was saying, if you do have the money to go out to nice restaurants, go out with friends, travel, whatever it is, don't panic at the price. Just tell yourself, I am rich, I always have more than enough money, this is nothing, this is such a small fee, I have millions in the bank. Whatever you want to say to yourself to calm yourself down in the moment, and loop it a couple times and then let it go. And just use a mental diet if you have to, but don't panic. If something you're paying for is a little bit more expensive than you expected or wanted, don't panic, just do your affirmations. Along with being financially responsible. Those two, unfortunately, do go hand in hand. We can't live in a utopia where you just do an affirmation and your bills are gone. You're going to have to affirm for a while for things to start to actually, you know, fully change. Another point, another do not, is do not complain to other people. I've been very aware of this the past few years for myself, even with family members, friends. I do not talk about financial concerns, you know, extra bills I've had to pay, worrying about, you know, am I going to earn XYZ? Am I going to have to pay whatever amount? I don't do that. I rarely ever complain or talk about anything negative about money. I'll talk about this in the next point actually, but yeah, no, I definitely don't complain to other people. That's something you have to be aware of, because that's negating your affirmations. That's going backwards. You just spent an hour affirming for your money. Well, if you go and meet up with a friend and start telling her how stressed you are, how your family's struggling, the cost of living crisis in the UK, any issue like that, you are putting that back in your mind. You're kind of unraveling some of the affirmations you've just done. So you have to be aware of this. If you do need to confide in someone, that's completely different. If you are struggling and you need somebody's support, absolutely confide in them, talk about your problems. But I'm saying complaining for the sake of complaining, just to tell your friend that you're worried about your finances, just to complain to your mum that, you know, how are you going to pay your bills this month? It's not worth it. Don't do it. Do your affirmations. Focus on the new reality. Final point, and this is a do, and that's to joke around with your friends or family, anyone you trust and know well, because otherwise it could be misconstrued and someone might think you're bragging or just a loony bin. Not a loony bin, a lunatic in the loony bin, you know what I mean. And so yeah, if you joke around with your friends and say, I'm so rich, you know, oh my gosh, I just got £1 million in my bank account. If that's part of your humor and you have, like me, a dry or sarcastic humor where you you make very exaggerated, ridiculous jokes, which I love. I do that with my friends and they kind of take it as my sense of humor. It's not completely out of the ordinary. They wouldn't, you know, think anything negative of it. So if you have a close, jokey kind of relationship with someone, you know, your parents, a sister, a friend, whoever, joke around. Go when you're out at lunch with them, just be like, do you know what? Even if this bill was £1,000, I could pay it right now. I'm so rich. Like whenever I'd split the bill with my friends, a couple of times in the past, when we would go in a big group, I used to say, like, they were like, oh, okay, so we'll split the bill. And I was like, guys, don't worry, like, we'll just split it, whatever it is, we're so rich, or I'm so rich. And they would kind of laugh. And although I did half mean as a joke, it was my way of affirming. So even whilst you're out socializing, you can throw in a couple jokes about your financial success. And yeah, most people, if they know you well, will just probably take it as a joke if you word it in the right way. So yeah, try and implement it more into your daily life, whether you're talking to yourself whilst affirming, whether you're out with friends or family. Throw in a couple of jokes because your subconscious mind is always listening. So yeah, those are all my pieces of advice. I hope that was beneficial, useful for you guys. I hope you learned something. I think it's important to learn this new mindset, even for people who aren't into manifestation. Complaining about money is never gonna help you in life, and it's definitely not gonna suddenly create a solution for you. So hopefully this, opened your eyes to maybe a new way of thinking. If you did enjoy, please thumbs up, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you next time. Bye.